Hello, everyone. I'm Bertha. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Rise. Rise is a startup that converts food waste back into valuable ingredients. And today I'm going to show you how we did it. What was the process that we used? Maybe that process can also help you. Every time we hear the words food waste, it comes to our mind something that is, of course, is bad. It's a social problem. It's a huge issue. But also facts like 40% of our food get wasted because we buy more than that we can consume. So it seems like it's the individual fault, it's the residents, it's the households, it's that we're not thinking how to consume, it's like the retailers. And actually, like, we typically think in three phases. We think that it's a problem because during the harvesting or the growing of the crops, there was problems because we have substandard crops, maybe because of climate change. There was a lot of drought, there was not enough rain. Or we thought like maybe it's a problem because we have a high beauty standard for how food and vegetables should look like. And that's why we only think that products can only be pretty in order for us to consume. Or we think that, like the typical one, we bought more than we could consume, so it ends up in the landfill. And I'm not saying individuals shouldn't take responsibility, but I'm saying there's a hidden cause of food waste. And actually, it's one of the most important ones because it creates a lot. Food waste that comes from industry, that comes from our process, that comes every time you make any process, there's always a byproduct. In the food industry and the beverage industry, it's still food. It's just that it doesn't look appealing. So for instance, in this case, we are looking at different byproducts from the beverage industry. In the first case, it's pomace. It's just grapes that has been crushed. So there's still a lot of antioxidants there. In the second one is barley, just malted barley from the beer by process. The other one is okara from soy milk, and the other one is juice pulp. And we treat it as waste because it doesn't look appealing. Industries send it to the landfill, maybe compost it, and maybe they even feed it to animals. But they don't think of it as a resource. They think of it as a waste. But we thought, no, this is not a waste. We asked ourselves, how could waste be valuable? We ask many questions. And if it's food waste valuable, how could we make it something that people will use? We have many question marks because we knew that we wanted to solve this industrial issue. I did my PhD in how entrepreneurs conceptualize problems. And I was familiarized that it doesn't matter what industry they are from, it doesn't matter what stage they are, they're all facing with similar problems. There's a lot of information out there, and there's like a big issue, and they wanted to solve it. And one of the things is like, how can they conceptualize this like a big issue, like how can we make food waste valuable in something that I can manage? One of the things that they do is they have entrepreneurial resource. Of course, we are all constrained by resource. There's no unlimited time, unlimited money. And entrepreneurs, they are new on this stage, so there's more resource constraint. And one of the things that I found is that knowledge of the field is one of the most important resources. But it's not knowledge as an object per se. It's knowing how things are done. And through my research, I found it doesn't matter what stage they are, if they're a social venture or they're a technology venture, it is like they are all thinking like knowing how things are done. And I call this knowing in practice. Knowing in practice has 4 things: connecting and combining, prototyping to learn, thinking analogically, and reflecting. It's interesting to see that the first 3 are things that we can plan, we consciously do, but the last one, reflecting, is called a meta practice. That means that it only be done once I have done 1, 2, or the 3 first practice. Is the learning after doing. So the first practice is called connecting and combining. What does this mean? So every time I take 2 or more objects, ideas, information, people, industries, and I take elements from it, and I integrate it, and I think, and I get insights, I'm connecting and combining. For instance, in our case, when we started this project, we were 5 students from New York University, and we have like this big question: how we fight industrial waste? And one of our solutions was we should do industrial symbiosis. Industrial symbiosis means that the byproduct of a company could become the raw material of another company. But that's like a really, really big question. And it didn't lead us anyway. And then we're like, okay, let's think, how can we apply industrial symbiosis in New York? Because we want to make an impact where we were living. Still is too big. And then we're like, okay, we're not going anywhere. So what we did is like we make two lists. One, what are the waste that industries generate? And the second one, what are the industries in New York City? So we came with like this big list, and we connect and understand that actually one of the biggest industries in New York City and in many cities all over the globe that is growing double digits for the last 10 years is one that probably many of you are familiarized, breweries. We love our beer. We love our microbrewer. We love to have our local brewer. We don't like having Budweiser because it doesn't taste like anything. So we want this, and our brewers are proud to do it, and they put all the love and passion because they are interested in having a great quality product for you. But because they're interested in the quality and flavor, they don't think too much about the process. So they create a lot of byproducts. We went to a brewery in Brooklyn, in Greenpoint, that's where the name comes from, and we figured out what was going on. And then we figured out where were the breweries in New York based. Actually, more than 70% of the breweries are based in Brooklyn. And then we were like, okay, what is the main byproduct? And actually, it's called spent grain. Spent grain is just malted barley that has been boiled and crushed. So it only has water and barley, that's it. What is important about this is it has like amazing nutrition, high fiber, high protein, and low carb, because every time you're trying to create a beverage, an alcoholic beverage, you're trying to extract sugar. That's why it has low carbs. But most of the times in the city, the most common solution is to send it to the landfill. And that's a big problem because it is something that could have such a potential to be food. Through this process of connecting and combining, we were from let's fight industrial waste to let's fight industrial waste in your city to let's see what can we do with brewers' spent grain. It helped us get insights. The second thing is like once we have this material, we were trying to prototype to test what can we do with it. One of the things about spent grain is that the shelf life is just 6 hours. So you only have 6 hours to use it. That means that there's 3 things you can do. You can use it right away, you can somehow preserve it, or you can stabilize the ingredient to make it last longer. So we make paper, we make cookies for pet that looks horrible. We make granola. One of my co-founders, we ate it for 2 months. We try it, we put sugar, we put cinnamon, and we're still here, so it's not poisonous. And we found that the most valuable thing is to become a food. There's a lot of volume that you can use, and also it has such amazing nutrition. So then we experiment with more dishes, like from savory to sweets, pasta, bread, cookies, muffins, brownies, you name it. Going through this prototyping, we understand that what we should do with the brewer's spent grain is to make it into a source of food. But now it was time to learn how to stabilize this ingredient. Thinking analogically means that when I take a concept from a context and I translate it to another context. So one of the things that we notice is this material is really, it has a lot of moisture, like 75 to 80% moisture. And many fruits has a very similar physical characteristics. So what we did is like, okay, we look into the fruit industry. And we find that one of the preservation methods, the way they make it last longer, is through dehydration. And also, we look into the wine industry because they also make that ingredient last longer. They use belt press. So we thought like, okay, let's start with these mechanisms. And we also start inputting those mechanisms into our process. Actually, our process is now patent pending, and it has a lot of mechanical process. We don't add any additives. We don't add any chemicals. And it helps us make the spent grain last from 6 hours to up to a year. now I'm gonna tell you a story, because now that we have a product, we have created a product, we need people to start using it. So our potential users were bakers, chefs, are people that work with food. And this is interesting because these two people are two bakers. They are Brooklyn-based. They are both in very hipster neighborhood. They are both really creative. They are always looking for novel ingredients, and they are always saying that they want to try what's the best new thing. So in the first case, we were thinking that what people want was to have this material right just in time, so in the 6 hours, so they can use it. So we ran to the Greenpoint Brewery. We took the spent grain, which if you have smelled it, smelled really, really good. So we were like, oh my God, this guy's gonna be so happy with this new ingredient. So we ran across to Park Slope. We went to this bakery, and we gave him this material. And he told us, what are you doing, guys? Why are you putting waste in my kitchen? Get out of here. You shouldn't put this waste in my kitchen. Nobody in their right mind will eat that. And he told us, you can feed it to pigs, you can grow mushrooms, but there's no way that somebody will eat it. So of course, we were sad, but we were like thinking, okay, what did we did wrong? So actually, that was before when we were thinking like, spent grain, the only thing that people needed was to have it like right in the 6-hour windows. So we went through the prototyping and the feedbacks and the whole thing. What we discovered is that what people need is have a stabilized material, a material that lasts longer. And then we met the second guy, the second baker. And actually, we gave him a flour. And it was really interesting because he took the flour when we first started prototype, and he was helping us to iterate on the flour. He was telling us, no, you have to sift more. No, you have to do this. You have to do that. So it really helped us in the process of us creating a flour. Basically, we learn after doing. That's what is reflecting. It can only occur after you do certain things. So that comes to my framework that I created during my doctoral research, was that in order for you to have transformation of ideas, of course, you need to prototype, you need to think analogically, you need to combine and connect. And this is a very iterative method, and this helps us reflect. And when you reflect and you get feedback, positive or negative, from the environment, you make sense of what's going on. And then you can do more research and transform your ideas. And that's how we come from a really broad idea to let's work on brewer spent grain to a product, a flour. Actually, I'm really proud of our flour. I love it, but the most important part is that our customers love it. They love it because it takes the flavor from the beers. So sometimes it tastes nutty. Sometimes it tastes a little bit like almond. Sometimes it tastes like coffee or chocolate, because when you have a porter, that tastes like that. And actually, another thing that they love it is the high nutrition it has. It has 12 times fiber, 2 times proteins, and 1/3 of the carbs, because the sugar has been taken out to make the beer. And of course, it's sustainable, and of course, it's local. So that's how we find the other way. So from breweries in cities, not to throw this main resource they have, to use the whole grain. Actually, breweries should be in the grain business, not in the beer business, because they can make the beer, and they could also make it into a flour. And actually, we have used this methodology for everything that we do. Actually, most of the food industries, they pay for their raw material. We don't. We make the brewers pay to us to collect the grain, so we have negative cost of goods sold. We did that by taking elements from the waste handling service. And of course, we are using the food practice. But also, this framework has helped us to think, what's next? Where should we move forward? Geographically, but also in parallel industries. So like the food waste from the wine industry, from the juice pulp, and from the soy milk industry. Hopefully beyond that. This has taken us all over the world. People love it, and it's great that it came from the United States and help us like think about how we can repurposing. And then help us understand that waste is just an untapped resource. It is just that we haven't found the right application for it. Through this methodology, it helps us understand that upcycling is the future of food, and I hope it helps you understand how can you take a problem and conceptualize it into executable items. Thank you.